There comes a moment, a split second so brief yet decisive, when someone points a finger at you, accuses you, questions your dignity, your character, and your intentions. And in that moment, the average person does exactly what they've been taught their whole life. They defend themselves. I didn't mean it that way. I was trying to say something else. You misunderstood me. I'm not like that, I swear. It feels moral, reasonable, and fair. But to Machiavelli, this is the exact moment you lose all your power. Because the second you start explaining yourself, you admit that you are weak enough to feel the need to prove your innocence. And in the game of power, perception is everything. If they see you hesitate, they don't see a victim, they smell weakness. This is the harsh law Machiavelli understood before anyone else. The person who defends himself lowers himself. The one who refuses forces the world to defend him instead. Understand this truth. Defending yourself almost never convinces anyone. It only robs you of your power. Because when you start justifying your actions, you're stepping onto their playing field. You're accepting their narrative. Without realizing it, you're saying, yes, you have the authority to judge me. And once they have that authority, they control the entire story. Even if you are right, you will still look guilty. Because only the weak rush to explain. The strong, they let silence burn. They leave the accusation hanging, untouched. Because they know the real strategy is this. Turn the accusation into a mirror. Make your accuser doubt themselves. Make them look emotional and fragile. Expose them as obsessive, bitter, and unstable. Because often the one who speaks first loses control of the frame. And Machiavelli knew well, whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. Most people rush to defend themselves because deep down they crave to be understood. They think that if they just keep explaining, if they add more details, if they repeat their side of the story enough times, eventually they'll be vindicated. Their image will be restored, and people will see the truth. But that belief does not come from intelligence. It doesn't come from strategy. It comes from emotion, from insecurity, from a place of weakness. The desire to be understood is a trap, because in power dynamics, understanding doesn't give you leverage. It doesn't give you control. It gives you nothing but vulnerability. What you truly want is not clarity, not sympathy, not validation. What you want, if you want to play this game seriously, is control. Clarity is for therapy sessions. Control is for power. And true power has never come from convincing people to see things your way. It doesn't come from being liked or from having your heart understood. Real power comes from being respected, from being feared, and from projecting yourself as untouchable. So when someone hurls an insult at you, when they label you arrogant, cold, selfish, manipulative, and your immediate reaction is to respond with, "No, you don't understand me," or "You've got me wrong," you've already lost the exchange. Because in that moment, you've shown your hand. You've shown that their words mattered to you. You've shown that you care enough to explain yourself. You've handed the narrative over to them and given them authority over your image. You've also given up the most Machiavellian weapon you had in your arsenal: mystery. Think for a moment about the most powerful people you've ever encountered. Not the loudest ones in the room, not the most charming or the most liked, but the ones who seem to carry an aura with them. The ones who use silence like a weapon. The ones who made you question your own judgment with just a look. The ones who never broke their composure, never flinched when someone took a shot at them. Machiavelli would remind you of this timeless rule. He who explains submits. He who remains silent forces others to fill in the blanks themselves. And in doing so, they almost always overestimate him. That is the essence of the game of power. When you refuse to react, they begin to squirm. They start second-guessing their own words. They begin searching for validation from others, but nobody steps up to support them. Their power starts to shrink while yours quietly grows. Because you've done the one thing most people cannot bear to do. You've left them talking to themselves, wrestling with their own thoughts, feeling the weight of their own accusations. This is what emotional people cannot stand. They need you to react. They feed off your reaction. And when you deny them that, you control the entire dynamic. That's how you flip the balance of power in an instant. You let their accusations crumble. You let their words echo back to them. And you let them wither away in the weakness of their own argument. Picture this. You walk into a room. All eyes are on you. Someone throws a jab, a subtle remark, or a direct strike at your success, at your attitude, at your past. The room falls silent. Everyone is waiting to see what you'll say. And your move, you say nothing. No defense, no retaliation, not even a smile. Just calm, absolute calm. In that moment, you become untouchable. Because now every mind in the room is asking, why didn't he react? Does he know something we don't? Is he so high above this he doesn't even care? Did that attack just make him stronger? That's the moment you flip the entire social frame. Because they're not really watching the insult. They're watching you. They're studying your response. And when silence is delivered with presence, it screams louder than any excuse, louder than any explanation you could ever give. Machiavelli knew this. He wasn't just a politician. He was a master of human psychology. And he understood this better than anyone. Power isn't in the words you say. It's in the words you could say, but choose not to. Pause. Now here's the coldest, sharpest move of all. Sometimes you don't just ignore the accusation. You turn it back on them. Someone calls you manipulative. You stay calm. Offer a faint smile. Lock eyes and simply say, if that's how you see it, no defense, no apology, no panic. Just a level of detachment so icy, it makes them tremble. What happens next? They scramble. Because they wanted a reaction. They wanted a fight. They wanted to see you squirm. But instead, they're left holding their own weapon, forced to sit with their own words. And that's when guilt creeps in, not for you, but for them. They start replaying what they said, questioning themselves. Did I go too far? Did I embarrass myself? Do I look insecure right now? And the truth is, yes, they do. You've taken the energy they threw at you, and you've placed it right back on them, without lifting a finger. That's the beauty of presence and restraint. There's a moment when silence becomes unbearable. Not for you, but for the one begging for a reaction. And that's the moment. The table turns, and power is yours. They thought they were the accuser. Now they're exposed as the one desperately seeking attention. And you've just become something far stronger than innocent. You've become untouchable. Machiavelli understood something most people never will. Words are not meant to clarify the truth. They are meant to obscure it. When someone attacks you, subtly, slyly, or directly, they want you to fight the fog. They want to drown you in emotional explanation. Because the more you explain, the less certain, the less composed, the less in control you appear. So instead, let them fill the silence. Let them stumble over their own words. Let them overplay. Let them repeat themselves. Watch as they start looking desperate, emotional, unstable. You said nothing. And now, they are the one under scrutiny. Because here's the secret. The crowd isn't listening to the words being thrown. They're watching who is calm, who is rattled, who is in control. That is social power. And it doesn't come from being right. It comes from being untouchable. Imagine this. You're in a business meeting. Someone subtly undermines you. They say, I'm not sure that strategy is fully thought through. Or he always has these bold ideas. They're looking for a reaction. They want you to bite. They want to see you stumble. What do most people do? They lean forward. They explain. They justify. They clarify. They get nervous. The room smells the tension. But the Machiavellian operator? He leans back. He waits, maybe even allows a faint smirk to cross his face. And if he speaks, it's not a defense, it's a redirect. Let's hear your strategy then. Suddenly, the attacker has to perform. The room flips. The tables turn. They are now under evaluation. They are under pressure. Because silence from the confident is accusation without words. It makes people feel small, exposed, powerless, without you lifting a finger. In romantic or personal relationships, this becomes even more potent, more dangerous. Imagine your partner says, "You don't care about me anymore." The average person panics. They launch into explanations, reassurances, defenses, desperate to prove themselves. And in doing so, they validate the emotional frame of the accuser. But the Machiavellian approach is entirely different. You don't dismiss them. You don't argue. You let the weight of the accusation hang in the air. You watch as their own drama echoes back to them. Then calmly, you respond, "That's not how I see it." Short, grounded, precise. No explanations. No justifications. Now they feel uncertain. They question their own tone. They wonder if they overreacted, because in that moment, you held power over what matters most, the emotional tempo. And whoever controls the tempo controls the frame. There's an even deeper tactic, and it's colder. Don't just remain calm when accused. Disappear. Someone insults you, don't reply. Don't respond. Don't acknowledge them. But don't block them either. Let your absence sit like a mirror. Let them stew in the silence of being ignored. This breaks people in two ways. They realize you didn't even deem them worthy of a response. They start spinning internal narratives. Most of the time, it destroys their composure. Why? Because the average person survives on emotional validation, even in conflict. Remove that, and they wither. They spiral. They post more. They talk to others. They try to bait a reaction. And with every failed attempt, they appear weaker, more obsessed, more unhinged. Meanwhile, you remain perfectly still, and that's when you win. Not because you proved anything, but because they destroyed themselves trying to provoke a reaction from you. Here's where it gets elite. Instead of defending yourself when attacked, make their accusation look like a sign of weakness. Someone calls you arrogant. Strange, that confidence makes people uncomfortable. Someone calls you manipulative. Only those who can't be influenced say that. Someone calls you fake. Everyone says that when they stop getting what they want. You don't deny the accusation. You make it their insecurity. Now, they're scrambling to defend themselves. It's not just a reversal, it's a power judo throw. You use their own emotional force and turned it into their public collapse. Machiavelli called this the turn of the blade. Do not meet the sword with a shield. Let the attacker fall on his own blade. The world teaches you to defend your reputation, to explain yourself, to clear your name. But Machiavelli saw the trap. He knew, the moment you chase innocence, you admit guilt. The true strategist never plays that game. Instead, he appears too composed to be shaken, too elevated to care, too clear on his position to feel the need to explain. Slowly, those who try to tear him down start looking unstable, reactive, jealous, weak. The more you defend, the more it looks like you need to. The more you ignore, the more dangerous they assume you are. And that assumption is where true power is born. Most people think power is about proving themselves, proving they're right, proving they're not what others say, proving they're better than perception. Machiavelli would smirk. The second you try to prove anything, you've already validated the other person's judgment. And when you hand someone validation, you hand them your leash. Imagine a social setting, a dinner table, a meeting. Someone throws a public jab. Oh, he always acts like he knows everything. I guess humility isn't his thing. What do most people do? They tense up. They try to laugh it off. Or worse, they respond with a long explanation trying to smooth it over. What they think is saving face is actually confirming the hit. Now everyone's watching the defense, and that alone makes the original jab appear true. Here's what the Machiavellian does instead. Pause, hold silence for 2 seconds. Scan the room, not with aggression but with quiet amusement. Then, only if necessary, offer something calm, precise, dismissive. You seem emotional today. Or interesting take. Or nothing at all. Just a long, still gaze. What happens next? The attacker shifts. They fidget. They look for backup. They try to explain their joke. They feel the heat of the room shift onto them. Your lack of reaction spoke louder than words ever could. You are not the one under judgment. They are. In the digital arena, escalation is even faster. Comments, posts, call-outs, DMs, people baiting you for a reaction. Machiavelli's truth applies. Silence speaks guilt, unless your silence commands fear. Here's the tactic. When attacked online, don't defend, don't explain, distort. Redirect the energy back to the crowd. Example, someone calls you toxic or manipulative. Instead of a tearful defense or a long clarification, post. People always call you dangerous when they can't control you. What just happened? You didn't defend. You reframed the accusation into a badge of power. They look bitter. You look unfazed. The audience begins questioning who is truly in control. That's not damage control. That's narrative dominance. Let's get surgical. There are 3 tools you can use instead of defending yourself. Silence. The default cold, powerful leaves them exposed. Deflection. Redirecting without acknowledging the jab. Precision. Short, sharp, undeniable truths that end the game immediately. Examples. You're full of yourself. Confidence upsets the insecure. You're fake. I don't owe you authenticity. You think you're better than everyone? No, I just don't think like everyone. These aren't defenses. They are status assertions. They don't say, I'm not guilty. They say, you can't touch me. The Machiavellian never begs to be seen as good. He dares people to see him as bad and walks taller for it. When you refuse to defend yourself, something strange happens to your enemies. They become unhinged. They expected a battle, and instead they swing at smoke. They escalate, push harder, get dramatic, expose more of their insecurity. And the more they do, the more you rise in the eyes of others, because you've made them perform their own collapse. And that is the Machiavellian endgame. You don't destroy your enemies. You let their obsession destroy them. You think being misunderstood is dangerous, but being predictable is far worse. The misunderstood man has mystery. The predictable man is easy to manipulate. Those who always try to clear things up appear desperate. Those who remain calmly misunderstood, they are feared. Machiavelli knew it's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both. Even more, it's better to be confusing than predictable, because the confused person is cautious. They watch, they hesitate, and that means you control the field. Forget the illusion of a good reputation. You need a strong one. The man with a good reputation is expected to be clean, soft, agreeable. The man with a strong reputation, he's not always liked, he's not always trusted, but no one dares move against him casually. That's what happens when you never defend yourself. Your reputation becomes less about what people believe, and more about what they fear you might do next. That's how you flip the power. You stop fighting for approval. You create an aura that makes people cautious. Even your silence feels like a decision. Every move you don't make becomes a move in their mind. The final evolution is not just silence. It's aura, a presence so composed, so secure, so far above petty noise, that accusations evaporate before they land. And this isn't about being emotionless. It's about being unbothered by design. Once you train yourself not to defend, not to explain, not to seek validation. You cross a line where your existence itself becomes the defense. And that's when power becomes effortless. Think about the few people in life who never explain themselves. They don't post long rants. They don't correct the record. They don't argue with critics. Yet people respect them more. Why? Silence in the face of accusation creates myth. It invites interpretation. The human mind, left without explanation, fills the void with strength. People assume, you must be dangerous. You must know something we don't. You must be so secure in yourself, you don't even blink when challenged. That assumption is what makes people follow you. Machiavelli didn't care about being good. He cared about being in control. The one who never defends is always in control of perception, even when surrounded by lies. Here's the paradox. The more you explain yourself, the more alone you look, because no one needs to step in when you argue for yourself. But if you remain calm, if you stand silent, unfazed, people feel the urge to defend you. They didn't deserve that. Why are you coming after him? He didn't even respond, and you're still pushing. Suddenly they become your shield, and what's better than defending yourself? Letting others do it for you. That's Machiavellian leverage. Let the crowd argue your case, while you remain above the noise. Now you're not just respected, you're elevated. It doesn't happen overnight. You build it like a fortress, stone by stone. Act with restraint. Choose stillness over reaction. Never explain more than necessary. Start here. Never correct insults meant to provoke. Let them speak, let them echo. Your silence tells the room the insult didn't register. Respond to indirect shots with calm, detached curiosity. Is that how you see it? Said with total serenity, it dismantles the emotional energy behind their attack. Use short closing phrases instead of defenses. Noted. Okay. Think what you like. Time will tell. Each one closes the door. It doesn't invite debate. It ends the scene. Study how you hold your face, your body, your gaze. The Machiavellian never twitches, flinches, or tenses. Stillness is his armor. The more still you are, while others lose control, the more your power expands silently. When people don't know how to provoke you, they fear you. You become unpredictable, not erratic, but unreadable. A mirror reflecting their own instability. Machiavelli would say, the most dangerous man is not the one who attacks first. It's the one who never needs to. You will reach a point where attacks stop. Not because you fought them, but because people know they'll lose before they start. Your presence says, I don't play defense. I let others destroy themselves trying to reach me. There is a difference between strength and immunity. Strength still flinches, still reacts,